Hello, hello. I hope everybody's doing well. I apologize for the couple minute of delay, but I could not get this new producer thing on Facebook to work. So I don't know if anybody here, hey Don, knows how to use that. I'm gonna have to just get on a YouTube video or something, but I'm so frustrated. But where there is a will, there is a way. We are here. And I've been dying to get on to talk about this topic. So we got the phone set up and we are ready to roll. Let me know if you're on as you're coming in, where you're coming in from. Here are some comments coming up. Cool. All right. Hey, Bianca, I can see that you just joined. It's kind of creepy. The people who I'm friends with, I can just see that they joined. They don't have to say hi, so you can't really hide out. So, well, welcome. I'm super pumped to see you guys and to talk about this topic, Nashville. I love Nashville, one of my favorite cities ever. I wanted to chat with you guys about this super important topic because clearly our industry landscape is changing on the daily, and this is truly an unprecedented time. There is no question. But I do feel as I'm having conversations with a lot of you in the tribe, also, can someone just give me a thumbs up that you can hear me good too? Because I don't have my fancy microphone and all this because I'm on my phone now. So I feel like we are feeling bottlenecked into making impulsive decisions about our business right now because all of the, oh boy, make sure we're still here. Okay, cool. Because things are changing literally by the week. It's not literally content that I talked about in our boot camp 3 weeks ago. I cannot believe how quickly new and really county by county, just different regulations, different, stay-at-home orders. Some businesses aren't, some are for elective procedures. Really go into today and over the next couple of lives with you guys. I want to talk about how to really focus on intentionally strengthening your brand during this time as we're going into a recession. Because what we know is that the decisions that you make today are going to impact your business, not just in the short term, but in the long term and as the economy recovers. Talking to you today as our part one of this series about pricing at this time. And how do I'm hearing a lot Kaeli, this is unprecedented, which it is, but we just have no idea how to really navigate because this is just totally different than anything we've ever done. Nobody knows what to do. There really is no playbook for us. And aesthetic practice is just kind of left out to try to figure all this out. Just kind of be responsive and reactive and take it day by day. And while many of those feelings, probably many of you watching this or listening to this could resonate with that, that it is very scary and we don't really know what to do. However, to quote the great Spanish American philosopher, George Santayana, I think is how I pronounce his last name. He says, if you don't know history, then you are doomed to repeat it. And so I like to look at what are some of the models, what are some of the things that have happened in the past that are going to help us understand what could happen as we go through this recession and how to recover and keep our businesses strong. And we talked before about what a brand is. And for those of you who've been through some of my trainings, you want to type in there and let me know what your opinion is about a brand. I would love to hear. You guys know mine. I believe that your brand is really your reputation and what people say about you behind your back. It's what you represent. A business does transactional interaction, but a brand, that is something that creates raving loyal fans and clients that will come to you no matter what. They're going to be loyal, and that loyalty is unbreakable. And so what we really need to think about during this time is how to create that kind of excitement and engagement with our clients when we're really even still uncertain about how quickly things are going to return back to quote unquote normal, and obviously adapting to what is going to be the new normal. I know that there are I have clients who are getting ready to open. One client of mine told me that he's done the calculations and it's going to cost him approximately $10,000 more a month just to run his business because of the slowdown in patient volume that they're anticipating, only by the way of, only allowing one person in the lobby at a time, and patients need to wait outside in their car and make a phone call before they come in. And then all of the personal protective equipment that's required, the cleanliness, and the more sophisticated your business is, the greater those costs are going to be, because you may have more rooms that need to be sanitized. The patient turnover may even slow down even more if you're doing procedures in an operating room or a procedure room in your practice. There's just going to be some extremely tighter regulations that you're just going to be a victim of. What you're not really going to have much of a choice. And so with that being said, what we can do is look at what are some of the recession models that we've seen in the past in history? What can history teach us about how to position ourselves going forward? And I was just doing some research over the weekend, and I came across a study that was done after the last 2008-2009 recession. And what it showed, this was a Harvard Business Review article. They interviewed over 4,000 businesses that survived the last recession. And of those over 4,000 businesses, only 9% of them really flourished. And by flourish, that means they had growth in their business. They were able to continue to collect profits that they could then reinvest afterward. And so there is a wide body of research out there, and we need to leverage that research to make informed decisions about whether or not or how to cut prices. I know that a lot of you have come to me to say, I really think that I need to meet my patients where they are and offer a lower priced offer, or offer a modified offer, or something else that, is different than I've been offering, because I'm concerned about the state of the economy that we're in. And so I was just on a recent panel with some other thought leaders in our industry who were describing that of their clients, the consensus was about 90% of aesthetic practices are putting a pause on investing in marketing right now, because they just want to kind of wait and see what's going to happen. And when we look back at why, did only 9% in the last recession of these businesses in the study flourish, here's the reason why. Here's what we know. They dropped their prices an average of 10%, and then they stayed there for a full 2 years. And the three main assumptions were, one, that business leaders assumed that cutting prices were the only way to keep their customers and their market share. Can anybody here relate to that? Number two, sales teams might feel pressure, or if you have team members who are commissioned in some way or bonus, they might feel pressure to meet quotas. Doesn't happen all the time in our, specifically on the medical side, but if, there is some component of that could possibly happen for you guys in this study. Sales teams and leaders felt pressure to meet quotas, and so in many cases we're offering discounts because of that. And then third, companies were trying to recoup some of the cost on the assets that they have. So in this case, maybe you have staff or you have leases on devices or other overhead costs that you really just are trying to get what you can to manage cash flow. But remember, like I said, the pricing decisions that you make today are not only going to impact your business today, but as in this study shows, and evidence that shows that that these decisions that you're making in your pricing will really be around for 2 to 3 years afterward. So you want to be very intentional about what you're doing, about how you're pricing your offers. I think the bigger concern that I have of all of that is that I want to give an example here too. But as you cut your prices, you're not only impacting your profit, but you're also training your customers to be used to spending on your offer and at a lower price point. And so they're going to be used to these discounts and like these discounts. So you need to be careful about that. So I put an example together here. It's not super, I'm going to try to explain it as simply as I can on this video. But basically, let's say that you're a medical spa that offers a body contouring procedure, and that procedure is priced at $5,000. Then you have consumables, cost of goods, supplies that cost you $1,500. Plus, you have cost in marketing, whatever you're spending on patient acquisition, your provider who's going to be administering the procedure, et cetera, So we'll call that another $1,500 in cost. So your profit on that procedure is $2,000. So let's say it could be bundled. You could apply this to whatever. This is very basic math, but you could use this formula with whatever procedures, services that you're offering or products. So let's say, the recession hits and now you're concerned about you're maybe one of those people in the bucket that we talked about, that you just really want to make sure that you do right by your customers, and you think that, I want to meet them where they are and I want to offer a lower priced offer for them. And so you decide to drop your price 10%. And so now you offer this procedure at $4,500 instead of $5,000. So in your mind, you're thinking, well, I'm still making $4,500. But remember, you have the same consumable cost of goods, supplies of $1,500. You still have the marketing cost, which your marketing costs may have even gone up depending on if you have taken your foot off the gas pedal on your marketing, and now it's becoming a more laborious process on your team to find leads, right? So you have that patient acquisition, the cost of either your provider as an MD or an RN, let's say, that same $1,500. And you're collecting, you're thinking, first of all, revenue versus profit, right? So the revenue is what you're in your mind thinking that you're collecting. That is not ultimately what you're taking home. What you're taking home is your profit that's left over after all of those costs. So you have to be very careful here, because you dropped your prices 10%, but in this very basic example I gave you, even though prices were dropped 10%, be very careful, pay careful attention to the math, because that resulted in a 25% drop in profit, because everything in between does not change. And that is a very dangerous place to be. Your profit is what you need for your cash reserves, your peace of mind. You do not want to be cutting profits at this time, right? You want to be protecting your profits. Your profits are the things that are going to give you the ability to build a fruitful, flourishing business going forward, okay? So in addition, like I mentioned before, the bigger picture is when you are intentionally establishing your position in the market, i.e. developing a brand for yourself, coming out with discounts is going to could be misleading or misrepresent the quality of product that you have to offer, and ultimately train your patients to expect lower prices over time. It's very difficult to offer low prices and then they become used to that, and now you raise prices, you know, in the same economic climate, right? Because we don't know how and when things are going to change, particularly since we were coming out of a very fruitful climate, you know, before. So going back to that example, I want to emphasize for you that even though you're dropping your price on your products 10%, that this example is resulting in a 25% drop in profits. And you can do the math on higher procedures, or if you're discounting at a higher volume at 20%, you can see how this is a very dangerous, slippery slope for your business. And I want to make sure that you understand that profit that's what feeds your research and development, your new hires, your new technology, your devices, your investments in marketing. All of the things that really make your business grow come from those profits. That is where the money comes from. And so as we're talking about building your brand, it's mission critical that you're thinking in terms of not just how you're positioning yourself in the market from the perception of a patient, but how these decisions that you make today are going to impact your business in the long term. And as we're reflecting on past recession history and studies and real evidence, we see that there are trends that we can recognize and we can modify our plan to adapt to. And these next 90 days are going to be absolutely critical for you, because this is where you're going to establish your place and your stronghold. Now, I just want to take a step back and talk about some of the trends that our industry is forecasting in terms of patient return, response rates, activity, consumer confidence, and things like that as it relates to getting back to aesthetic procedures. So what is being predicted is that patients are there'll be a first wave of patients that have kind of been waiting for their aesthetic procedure, right? They're going to be very excited to come back. They're like, you know, knock, knock, like waiting for the door to open. You're probably gonna have your most loyal patients right there ready. And by the way, ready to pay what they have been paying for procedures, because you have trained them and they understand what the cost of those procedures are, okay? Now, for those of you that have decided to take a backseat on marketing right now, I would be very, very careful and thoughtful about that, because once that first wave of patients come in, then your pipeline or your funnel, however your database of prospects, right, is now the next wave of business that you have. So where is that business coming from? And you have to be very thoughtful about this, because the last thing you want to do is open your doors, see this influx of patients, get excited and think that business is just back to normal, business as usual, when in fact there is a backlog of patients who have been waiting to come in, and it's giving you a false impression over the vitality and the viability of the business over the rest of the year. And so there could be some of you who have decided to not market over the past few months who will be waiting and feel a void because you have not been filling that sales funnel now. So not to scare anybody, but just to think about the flow and the process, and to be aware and to make intentional decisions now, understanding how they could impact you in the long term. Okay. So I think the big takeaway from what I'm saying is obviously don't cut your prices, right? But we live in the real world. And so you're not here to hear me. You know how I feel about discounting, and hopefully this illustration at least gives you a better perspective about how important those profits are. And I talk a lot about pivoting for profit, and the reason why most of us, when we talk about profit, we talk a lot about cash flow, about bringing in new patients, about, patient retention strategies that are going to increase sales. And that's all important. But remember, if you're discounting, and by the way, as I explained earlier about my clients who were talking about the anticipated slowdown in patient volume, right? There's going to be a slowdown in basically traffic and conversions because there'll be less people coming into your practice every day, can't turn rooms as quickly, etc. That's going to require more traffic. That's going to require investing in bringing in more patients to increase basically the pool of prospects, okay? Now, if I'm saying don't cut prices, what can you do? And we're gonna go into, in part 2 next week, I'm gonna talk more about properly marketing during a time of adversity. But what to do now in terms of thinking about how to position yourself and your brand without discounting, but to still meet your patients where they are. So the first tip is, I'm going to call it apples to orange pricing strategy. Okay. So what that basically means is do not charge less for the same offer. Okay. So if you want to come in with a lower price package, you need to ensure that it's markedly different from something that you've been offering in the past. Okay. So maybe you want to offer, let's say you're a plastic surgeon in Orange County, and your full package of it's a body package for moms, and it includes a tummy tuck and post-surgical laser treatments for skin tightening, post-care garments, your post-op visits, your scar creams, all of that. It's comprehensive package. We'll just call it $20,000, right? And you want to offer something that's half of that. Like you want to have a smaller, lower offer that is more attractive for the mom who really wants to get the result but doesn't have the funds to spend at this time. Okay, so perhaps you want to offer then a $10,000 package. So maybe instead you would offer a mini tummy tuck, but just include one treatment of skin tightening without the full series, or something like that to modify your offer. But the key to that, and you can apply this to any type of procedure, or if you're an esthetician and you have a full comprehensive facial package, maybe it's something or a portion or a piece of it or a modified version of it. But the key to doing this is that you have to make sure you educate the patient about the value that they are getting by you offering this special package for them, right? And it's available for a limited time. Here's why. Here's the benefit you'll get from it. Here's what we usually offer in our package and what it costs, okay? But we're offering it to you because this is your situation. And make sure they know all of the things that they're getting. You're getting a world-class physician, this technician, this device, this this treatment. But also make sure you educate them on what they're not getting. So for example, if you typically have a full series of skin tightening, 4 to 6 treatments as an example, and you're only giving them one, make sure they understand that this isn't what we clinically recommend for a full series of treatments to get you to your optimal outcome. But we're willing to do this for you because we think it's a good Kickstarter, or we care about you that much, and we believe the combination of incorporating this into your treatment plan is really going to take you, tie you over for the next 3 to 6 months, in which case at that point in time, we will book you for the full series, and we'll talk to you about, obviously collecting that. And I would take it even a step further and actually book them for that consultation appointment now, 3 to 6 months out, to have that conversation about the 4 to 6 package series of the laser treatment. So this would be just an example of how to make an offer to meet them where they are, but without actually offering the same actual treatment at a different price, okay? Which as we talked about, would result in a lower profit margin, and train your clients to expect that lower price. Obviously, too, they all talk to each other. You have to assume when you're offering one patient something special that their friends, which by the way, if you do a great job, they're going to tell their friends about you. And then, the first thing, if I'm friend, I'm going to ask is, would you pay, right? So I know that going in. Okay. All right, so if you do have some questions in here, I will in just a couple of minutes answer some Q&A. Okay, so now I want to talk to you about how being careful, because most of the time, and as we look back at some of the recession models in history, and I can tell you this, I know just from experience and working with practices that, and we're all like this, that we, be careful not to engage in reactionary pricing or making the customer's decisions for them, because you could be wrong. So many patients now actually have extra money to spend because they have not been eating out. They've not been wining and dining. They have not been traveling. They have not been spending some of their discretionary income on the things that they would gladly be willing to spend on services with you. So don't automatically jump to assume that patients are looking for a discount, because they could not. We talked about expecting that sales conversions will likely go down. There's going to be a slower uptick in patients coming in for procedures over time once you get through this kind of initial wave of the backlog of patients who've been waiting. So be careful about how you are deciding that patients either usually, they may want to spend the money for you. So number one, don't assume that they won't pay full price. Okay. Number two, work to increase patient volume, since conversions will go down. So I cannot emphasize enough that it is critically important, and I talked about this very, very early on for those of you who read my articles, about leaning in during times of uncertainty, and that how much opportunity there is, because if 90% of practices are not marketing, then you have the 10% who are, and guess where their market position is going to put them by doing that. So if you have the cash flow to invest in marketing right now, thoughtful marketing, okay? I have to emphasize that, because I do see, just being out in the industry, there's a lot of really, really great thoughtful marketing that's going on out there. But there's also marketing that is just not that tasteful and it's off. So you have to be thoughtful about marketing the right way and effectively in times of adversity to attract patients in. But even in the sense of just showing up for them and being consistent and thinking about creative ways to market. And in a lot of cases right now, it's just the personal touch. Like we've talked about before. It's the personal phone calls. It's the checking in on them when you're not actually asking for a sale. It's how are things going with that product that you purchased a few months ago. I have maybe it's a sample to tie you over or something like that till you come in, let's book you. But being really thoughtful about relationship building. And I just think a simple handwritten note or a phone call asking, how are you doing, can just go so far. Additionally with marketing, I just want to make sure I emphasize that you are looking at your marketing strategy now as not just how to effectively safeguard your business in the short term, but to build the business in the long term. Because this really, I talk about the long game and visionary and being visionary and having a plan for the future and making small tweaks, right? Power tweaks in your A, messaging, B, your approach, C, your tactical strategy, but stay on track to where you want to go for the long term, okay? And then number 3, finally, this kind of goes down to like, what should you give away for free or not? Provide free value, not free things that you should be collecting revenue for, okay? So if you're being smart about getting out there, I love seeing what some of you are doing from an educational standpoint, showing up, educating, credentialing yourself, showing your expertise, right? All of these things that are giving, maybe you have a special guide for patients on how to keep their skin healthy from home. I just signed up for a webinar that's going on this week for how what you eat affects your gut and gut health affects your skin. Education, show that you're the expert and you're gonna add value through that, through those pieces. But please make sure that what you're doing leads back to your sales process, right? So many of you don't really think about that. There has to be a call to action that really gets them back into your sales funnel. So maybe you're hosting a webinar about a certain topic, and all the patients who register for that are going to get on a separate list so that they can be marketed to about the specific solution to the problem that they have, okay? As an example, I taught this in very extensive detail and in the boot camp, and I'm working on pivot for profit plans for those of you who are in my academy right now. That is literally what we're doing for this month. We are building communities, we are educating, we are teaching, and we are asking for business. And we're building a safe community for patients to come for the long term. So this isn't just something that's being reactive. This is a thoughtful and creative response to providing solutions to what patients have need for now, okay? All right. So this concludes my advisory for part 1. I gave you guys a lot of information today. I think, from the key takeaway standpoint is understand that we have to pay attention to models from the past because we have such an opportunity to make thoughtful decisions going forward, and that there are solutions for you besides discounting, which will impact your profit. And I encourage you to go back and do some of that math in your business if you haven't already, but to realize that it can be very insidious offering a discount when you have a bigger gap between your revenue and profit, and you're actually taking less off of the back end. That is the cash reserves for you to reinvest into your business. Now that's what's going to affect the long term. And finally, making decisions about your offers that are not apples to apples, but apples to oranges, and investing in your time, money, resources, whatever, investment you're choosing to make, in increasing patient volume because conversions will be lower over this time here. And showing up and adding more value. And we'll talk about ways to effectively market next week. Are there any questions that anybody has? I'll scroll through here and see if there's anything in the back. Okay. I don't see any questions. That could be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not sure. Hope you guys learned a lot. If you have any comments, put them in, if you're watching the replay, #replay, and put your questions or comments in there. If you found this useful and this is making you think about the approach that you're taking to market your business, I have opened up some time on my calendar tomorrow afternoon, and Shannon or Haley, you guys can confirm for me if that's the case, but to have a complimentary 20-minute pivot for profit strategy call with you. If you are thinking about this is resonating with me, I'm not really sure how to apply this to my actual business, and you want some additional support, I have a few spaces available. Obviously, it looks like someone's putting the link in the bio now. Thanks, Haley. You can click on this link here and schedule some time with me, and tell me what you're working on in your business so I can continue to develop useful trainings for you and strategic advisories that are really helping you make big moves in your business and navigate through this crazy unprecedented time. So thank you guys. I apologize for the Facebook mishap, but hopefully this came in clear enough. And I will look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday for the second part of this series. Have a great day.